Guys, I'm telling you what, you need to lock in right now because this is one of those moments where years from now, people are going to say, you cannot make this up. XRP price prediction 2026. Do not say I didn't tell you because the writing is on the wall and it is getting louder by the day. Right now, while the noise is all about Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that, institutions piling in, ETFs, headlines, drama, behind the scenes, XRP is positioning itself for something completely different, something structural, something foundational, something that does not care about hype cycles. And this is why I wanted to sit down with you like we're having a coffee, no charts in your face, no clickbait nonsense, just real talk. Because I really do believe that 2026 is where the separation happens. This is where utility finally slaps speculation in the face. This is where people who did the homework are no longer explaining themselves. They're just smiling. And right now, if you're watching this, you're early to the conversation that most people won't understand until it's already happened. Think about this for a second. Every single cycle in crypto, the public shows up late. Every single time. They chase green candles, they chase headlines, they chase narratives that already ran. Meanwhile, the real money, the infrastructure money, the settlement money, the government level money, it moves quietly. XRP lives in that world. And 2026 is not some random year I pulled out of thin air. It's a convergence year. Regulations mature, infrastructure goes live, liquidity routes open, cross-border settlement demand explodes, and suddenly XRP is no longer an altcoin. It's a rail, it's plumbing, it's boring until it's priceless. And that's why I'm saying it right now on record, so you remember this moment. If you're holding XRP today, you're not crazy, you're not late, you're not coping. You are early to a system shift. And yes, Bitcoin matters, absolutely, but Bitcoin is the store of value narrative. XRP is the movement of value narrative. Those are not the same thing. One sits, the other moves. One stores, the other settles. And in a world that is digitizing money at lightning speed, settlement wins. Alerta Roja USA. Pay attention because what's happening behind closed doors is going to shock people who thought this market was just memes and speculation. Now let's talk context because this is where most people get lost, and I want you to stay with me here. While everyone is watching Bitcoin dominance charts and ETF inflows, governments, banks, and financial institutions are asking a different question. They're asking, how do we move value instantly, cheaply, compliantly, and at scale? Not how do we hold it, how do we move it? And this is where XRP's entire design starts to matter in a way that most retail investors still underestimate. We're talking about cross-border payments, remittances, liquidity provisioning, real-time gross settlement, replacing systems that were built in the 1970s and duct-taped ever since, SWIFT messages that take days, Nostro and Vostro accounts locking up trillions in idle capital, friction everywhere. And here comes XRP saying, what if value moved like information? Not tomorrow, not next decade, but right now. You see, 2026 isn't just about price. Price is the effect, not the cause. The cause is adoption and necessity. Banks don't adopt things because they're cool. Governments don't care about your bags. They adopt what works, what scales, what complies. And XRP has been quietly aligning itself with that reality for years. That's why the regulatory clarity matters so much, especially in the United States, because once the fog lifts, once the rules are clear, the floodgates don't open slowly, they burst. Liquidity doesn't trickle in, it rushes. And this is where Bitcoin actually helps XRP, whether people like to admit it or not. Bitcoin legitimized the asset class. It forced institutions to pay attention. It forced regulators to engage. It forced the system to evolve. And now the question becomes, okay, what actually runs the pipes? What actually settles transactions when trillions start moving on-chain? I really do believe XRP is sitting right there waiting for that moment. And when it happens, the repricing is not linear, it's violent, it's sudden. It's the kind of move that leaves people staring at charts saying, how did we miss this? And the answer is always the same, because you were looking at the wrong thing. Alerta Roja USA. This is not about hype, this is about infrastructure. So let's get into the part everyone wants to hear, the predictions, the numbers, the what-if scenarios, because I know that's why you're here, and I'm not going to dance around it. When we talk about XRP price prediction 2026, We are not talking about a simple multiple of today's price based on vibes. We're talking about a fundamentally different market environment, a market where regulatory risk is dramatically reduced, a market where institutional participation is not experimental, it's operational, a market where XRP is being used, not traded. And that distinction is everything. When an asset is used for settlement, liquidity demand changes. Volatility compresses in some ways and explodes in others. The price has to reflect the value moving through the system. If XRP is facilitating even a fraction of global cross-border flows, the numbers people laugh at today start looking conservative. And I'm telling you right now, do not anchor yourself to old market cap logic without context. Market cap in utility-driven assets does not behave the same way as speculative tokens. Liquidity velocity matters, demand elasticity matters, and this is where 2026 becomes interesting, because by then, we're not guessing if institutions will use blockchain. They already are. We're not debating if regulation is coming, it's here. We're not wondering if legacy systems are broken. Everyone knows they are. The only question left is who captures the flow, and XRP has positioned itself as a neutral bridge asset in a fragmented global system. That is not an accident, that is strategy. So when people ask me, can XRP reach levels that sound insane today? My answer is always the same. Compared to what? Compared to meme coins, sure, it sounds insane. Compared to global settlement layers, it's actually logical. And this is why I keep saying you need to align yourself with where the world is going, not where Twitter is arguing. Alerta Roja USA. This is about positioning, not prediction. Now, let me get a little more real with you because this is the part that separates conviction from noise. Holding XRP is not easy. It hasn't been easy. It tests your patience. It tests your confidence. It tests whether you actually understand what you own or if you just bought a ticker symbol. And that's by design. Markets are not built to reward comfort, they reward foresight. And I really do believe that the people who make it through to 2026 with their conviction intact are going to look back at this period and laugh. Laugh at the fear, the doubt, the endless doom posts, the constant comparison to assets with completely different use cases. Because here's the truth. XRP doesn't need to beat Bitcoin. It doesn't need to replace Bitcoin. It doesn't need to win Twitter debates. It needs to do its job. And if it does its job, the price will take care of itself. We're talking about a future where tokenized assets settle instantly, where central bank digital currencies need interoperability, where liquidity moves across borders without friction. In that world, XRP is not optional, it's useful. And usefulness is the most underrated driver of value in this entire space. This is why I keep telling you, stop thinking in weeks and months. Start thinking in systems and years. 2026 is not tomorrow, but it's close enough that the groundwork is being laid right now. And the people paying attention can feel it. Alerta Roja USA. This is your reminder to zoom out. So let me wrap this up the only way it makes sense, speaking directly to you, not as an influencer, not as a guru, not as someone trying to sell you a dream, but as someone who's been watching this space long enough to recognize patterns when they repeat themselves. XRP in 2026 is not about getting rich quick, and if that's what someone is selling you, you should already be skeptical. This is not a lottery ticket narrative. This is a positioning narrative. It's about being in place before the switch flips, before the narrative changes, before the headlines quietly move from the word speculation to the word infrastructure, because once that shift happens, it doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It just happens. And when it happens, there is no time to react. There is no scrambling. There is no catching up. You either did the work or you didn't. You either understood what you were holding or you just held something because someone else told you to. I'm telling you what, markets always reward preparation and punish hesitation. Always. By the time CNBC is explaining why something matters, the move is already well underway. By the time your coworkers ask you about it, the easy positioning is gone. And that's why this window right now matters so much. XRP today still lives in that uncomfortable zone where conviction is required, where patience is required, where you don't get constant validation from price. And that's exactly the zone where opportunity hides because most people cannot sit in uncertainty. They need constant excitement. They need constant confirmation. They need green candles to feel smart. But the real money, the real positioning happens when things feel quiet, slow, frustrating, even boring. Look at the signs objectively. Regulation is not disappearing, it's solidifying. Institutions are not backing away from blockchain, they're integrating it. Global payment systems are not getting simpler, they're getting more complex, and complexity demands efficient bridges. Liquidity is not shrinking, it's going global. And in that environment, assets that actually solve problems rise quietly and then all at once. I really do believe XRP is one of those assets, not because of hype, not because of promises, but because of alignment with how money actually needs to move in a digital first world. And here's the part most people miss. When infrastructure becomes essential, price discovery changes completely. It's no longer driven purely by retail emotion, it's driven by demand, throughput, and necessity. That's when old models stop working. That's when disbelief turns into regret. And that's when people start saying, how did this happen so fast? It didn't happen fast. It happened while they weren't paying attention. So if you're still here, still listening, still thinking critically, that's a good thing. That means you're not asleep at the wheel. Just don't ignore what's right in front of you. Because one day, sooner than most expect, XRP will be talked about not as a bet, not as a controversy, but as a component of the system. And when that day comes, the conversation changes forever. Alerta Roja USA. Stay sharp, stay patient, align yourself with the future of value movement, and remember this moment when the switch finally flips. Regulatory clarity is forming, and that alone should make you sit up straight because nothing moves institutional capital faster than certainty. For years, the excuse was always the same: too much risk, too much ambiguity, too many unanswered questions. That excuse is evaporating right in front of us. Institutional rails are being built quietly, methodically, brick by brick, not for speculation, but for scale. We're talking about systems that don't care about hype, don't care about Twitter narratives, don't care about retail emotion. They care about efficiency, compliance, speed, and cost. And at the same time, global demand for efficient settlement is exploding. Cross-border payments aren't slowing down, they're accelerating. Tokenization isn't a buzzword anymore, it's a roadmap. Digital assets are moving from experiments to production. And XRP sits right in the middle of all of it, not trying to be everything to everyone, but doing one thing extremely well, acting as a bridge where bridges are desperately needed. So if you're here listening to this, absorbing it, questioning it, that's good. That means you're not just consuming content, you're thinking. And thinking is dangerous in a market that thrives on distraction. Most people don't want to think. They want shortcuts, they want guarantees. They want someone to tell them exactly when to buy and exactly when to sell, but that's not how real positioning works. Real positioning is uncomfortable. It forces you to hold conviction before validation shows up, and XRP has been a masterclass in that. It has tested people, shaken people out, bored people into selling, and that's how markets transfer assets from weak hands to strong ones. Just don't ignore what's happening because it's not loud enough yet. Don't ignore it because it hasn't moved the way you expected. Don't ignore it because other assets look more exciting right now. Because one day, probably sooner than most people expect, you're going to hear XRP mentioned on the news in a completely different tone. Not as a controversy, not as a lawsuit, not as a debate, but as a solution, as infrastructure, as part of how value actually moves behind the scenes. And when that happens, the late crowd shows up the way they always do: confused, emotional, chasing confirmation instead of opportunity. That's when price discovery gets real. Not gradual, not polite, real, the kind that reprices assumptions overnight, the kind that makes people scroll back through old videos, old posts, old conversations, saying, wow, it was right there the whole time. And that's when you'll remember this moment, this calm before the recognition, this phase where you had time to think, time to position, time to decide what side of history you wanted to be on. I'm telling you what, this is not about being perfect, it's about being prepared. Align yourself with the future of value movement, not the noise of the present moment. Stay sharp when others get distracted. Stay patient when others get emotional. Stay informed when others get complacent. Alerta Roja USA. The signals are flashing for those willing to see them. And when the story finally flips, don't say no one warned you. Don't say you didn't have time. Don't say you didn't know, because this conversation is happening right now and the future with XRP is unfolding whether people are ready for it or not.